The 7.4%, which took us to 79%, also symbolizes the teacher claiming the space to say education needs to be respected. I'm a teacher and I produce learners that are academically well off, learners that can produce what they've been taught, because you'll know that when a learner gets into class, at the end of the day, the test says produce what you have been learning. So for us, really has just been that space, and we're still excited about it. We are looking forward to 2024 in a more positive way than how we entered 2023.
Welcome to another episode of Sunday World Engage. I have with me today the MEC for Education in Limpopo, MEC Mavhungu Lerule-Ramakhanya. Welcome, MEC.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
You've had an amazing start of the year with the announcement of the Matric results. You've shown the province has shown quite an improvement, about 7%.
7.4%, yes.
The most improved province this year.
Yes.
Tell me what.
Thank you so much, Pumla and the team, for having us as Limpopo Department of Education. We are excited that you got us here today. I know that everyone is interested in us and the journey of the Department of Education in Limpopo. We are still brooding and talking about it, that we are still the most improved province. But what is critical for us is for the Limpopo province to have moved from position 9 to 7, because for me that has been a very psychological battle. Even though we produce quality bachelors, you'll remember for all these years we have always argued that our bachelors have got quality, our maths and science students are doing well, they go to universities and they get accepted, but because of the psychological warfare of the position, no one really acknowledged what a teacher and a learner does in class. So we are very, very happy. But also for me, the 7.4%, which took us to 79%, also symbolizes the teacher claiming the space to say education needs to be respected. I'm a teacher and I produce learners that are academically well off, learners that can produce what they've been taught, because you'll know that when a learner gets into class, at the end of the day, the test says produce what you have been learning. So for us, really has just been that space, and we're still excited about it. We are looking forward to 2024 in a more positive way than how we entered 2023.
And what have you been doing differently? You've been in this portfolio for less than 2 years, I think 20 months this month. What are the interventions that are in place that are ensuring that you get a 7.4 improvement?
I think the first thing that we did as a team, with me, the HOD and the team, was the whole interaction that we did with the principals. I was just saying the other day, I remember the time I met the principals. We met the principals of both primary and secondary schools. And we then said to the team, district directors, present the results of each school on here. You present it. We want to see it. Then we'll then request that principal to say, Principal Pumla, are these your results? And that interaction, the principals realized that they're not talking to each other. The difficulties that this principal have is the same difficulty that the other school is having, and they were not talking. So then we started the interaction. The district directors, the circuit managers then interacted with them to say, now start talking to each other. Where do you need support? So we then went into the second stage where now teachers that are excelling in a specific subject will then be recorded in other districts, but in other districts they will then have camps where this teacher will then take the kids as a cluster and go and teach them. So it meant that a learner had an opportunity to hear a subject on a different viewpoint. Where they had difficulties, now they are able to climb that mountain and deal with the difficulties that they are facing. And for me, that just broke the barriers of non-communication. These are some of the things that we had to do, but also academically through the office of the HOD, then there's been sessions, just accountability sessions to say, what does your contract say? What is the expectation of your job description? What type of beyond if you are not meeting your expectation of your job description? I emphasized what type of support do you need? Because, to be punitive is another thing, but to give support, it makes a person to review and then be able then now to open up and say, this is where I need support. And most of them, communication was just the key, and we are excited at where we are now.
It sounds like you're getting back to the basics.
Yes.
Communication and accountability. Why was that missing?
For some time, we have emphasized so much on results, produce, but we never paid attention to how much time do you need to be in a class to produce. I remember my first CEM meetings, our MEC in education is called CEM, and there was a presentation through the office of the minister that was talking about what type of support do we need to give to educators. Do we need to reskill them? Do we need to give them more chance for them to register with universities on their own? But we said at that meeting at the CEM, and the argument that all of us as MECs and the minister and our HODs and the DDGs were arguing about was, how much time does an educator have with a learner? And if we're saying they are getting in class between 7 and 2, and we are saying you, the educator, we still want you to register with a university, or we are putting you on a program, how much time are we withdrawing from that contact time of an educator and a learner? Yeah. And this is where we saw that much has just been missing about just talking to the basics of a learner and an educator. And I think as Limpopo, you know that for the past 2 years we have stabilized in terms of textbooks, in terms of the material for the learners, and that meant that we needed to fine-tune the contact time. And the basics meant that studies has to happen. That was something that naturally it died its own natural death. The morning studies, it was no longer there. The afternoon studies, it was no longer there. You'll find that we expect parents to come back to us and say, I can create more time and support to my learner if they are in sports, because the learner needs to be active, to have an active mind. So that was not there. So when we got the parents to be involved, the reality of our slogan that says education is a societal matter just happened, and that is why everyone in Limpopo now is in education space, and we are very, very happy about it.
The beginning of the school year was it had its own challenges with the union complaining about one of the issues you just mentioned is the delivery of teacher and learning material. It still sounded like that is still a problem. why are we having, two different views on this part, on this aspect? When the start of the year was almost, there was a lot of a noise around that.
You'll remember 2023, we had two issues. We had the noise about registration of the learners. Mm-hmm. You'll remember we had a very difficult year, which this year we dealt with it. You saw our queues were less. So with the year 2023, when we had longer queues, was that we looked at our system of accepting learners in the school of choice, which then impacts on the material, because a school of choice for a parent means that a parent can take a child anywhere in the province where they want their child to study. Mm-hmm. The second part becomes when we have as a department, I have to allocate a learner, a school, beyond what the parents need. So a school in July will then say, this is our need. Our class of grade 10 has got 80 learners that will be proceeding to grade 11. Mm-hmm. When they reach grade 11, we do not expect us to accept learners from outside in grade 11. That might be more than 20. So when you have got parents that starts to move learners, then that means that school, out of what they would have planned, you have got an excess of 20. So a union, it is its work to alert all of us in a corner where we might not be reaching. So we took it very, very positively, because myself, I went to one school when I was doing back to school. I then arrived there, and then the principal says to me, I don't have textbooks. So I said to the principal, okay, let's go through a journey that the MEC understands you when you say, I don't have textbooks. Mm-hmm. Then we went through a process, and I said, did you order? And she said, no, I did not put an order because I felt my school has not been receiving a lot of learners. But by that year, a lot of learners passed. And parents now wants to go to a school that every learner is passing. Mm-hmm. So it's not about shortages, it's about the planning at that level. So preparing for 2024, we then had to say, when that process starts, my office had an interest in it to say, we need to be able to get reports on how the districts are dealing with both the textbooks plus the placement of the learners. And by November last year, we were done. The queues that were there were just emergency parents that did not apply on time and all that.
You mentioned something very important when we were discussing the Matric results. I think this year your province also contributed to the highest percentages of bachelor passes of distinctions.
We have declared 2024 a year of academic excellence, starting from how the AU will look at education space ourselves nationally. But we are looking at that because we have not talked much about or brag a lot about our successes, like you're saying. We do so well, but we hardly speak about it. You'll remember that when the results were read, in terms of ranking of bachelors, Limpopo is number 4 in the provinces. And that has not really come back to be seen by us. So why we declared the year of academic excellence, we want to venture into that space. We are saying where we are doing well, how do we lock it up? Instead of going down, we keep on going up. Because the good practices that we did were just random planning from the plan that was produced by the Office of the Premier and our universities and ourselves as the Department of Education. So then the challenge now is to lock where we are. All our districts have performed above 70%. So then how do we keep them there? Is actually also what you're asking, and it's also a challenge on us. So one of the things that we are looking at is that what type of support are we going to get? You know, Kakeso Trust have been sitting in Sekhukhune, assisting us with the schools. So we are saying what has worked there, we need to retain, but also identify the uniqueness of our districts. Secondly, we need to identify the uniqueness of the subjects that we are giving to our learners. You know, Limpopo has got what you call focus school, even I think here in Gauteng and other provinces have. We have declared that, okay, if you are in Sekhukhune, at least there should be subjects that will speak to the issues of mining. If you are in Bembe and Mupani, some parts, you should be speaking subjects that will talk to agriculture. So that then this starts to link up with the skills of universities, then we can retain these learners. When they finish university, they can come back to work in the province. So this is how we are approaching the year of academic excellence, so that then we keep it there. Then the question then becomes that if you are to talk percentage, like you are asking, where do we go? Because remember the 79.54, we kept on making a joke with the minister that we want our 0.6 to make it 80, because our target last year was 80, but we feel we are there at 80. So we have looked, there are two processes that we do in the province.
Yeah.
As the MEC and the team in the Department of Education, we assess our performance by how we plan the first quarter. And where we are now, when we are planning the first quarter, we are seeing our percentages at 81.3. That's where we are now with the assessment. Since we started, the learners are writing the tests, the districts, the curriculum advisors are going to schools. So we are looking at 81%, which by the first quarter could be what we produce, and that is us. The second level is when the big boss, now the premier, sets the standard for the province, and that will be done during the SOPA. But where we are now with our assessment in terms of how our learners, especially for the grade 12s, are receiving the classes and the tests and the quizzes that they are giving them just to prepare them for the year, we are at 81%. But then we went further and said, what becomes the strength for teamwork amongst the learners? The same assessment test set at a provincial level, the same paper being written all over the province, set by the curriculum advisors and those that have to set, it needs to be done. We don't have to wait for the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
We need to start with it now. So same assessment tasks, they will be done, and that way we are assessing. But then our strength comes from us now picking up from grade 8, no longer just grade 12. We want to pick up from grade 8. That's to prepare the mind. I was saying to the grade 8 when I was doing back to school, to say now you are at a secondary level.
Yeah.
The tasks, the expectation is very different. At a primary school, sometimes we just leave you to be playing. So these are some of the issues that we are looking at, and we just want to lock our numbers and we keep on going up than really going down.
Sure. My conversation with you keeps coming back to the same thing. It's planning, it's coordination, it's communication. I mean, looking at your results, also one of the top subjects you're performing in is accounting. But you've spoken about the unique areas of Limpopo, which have to do with agriculture, which have to do with mining. And we have focus schools. The lack of communication, the lack of planning looks like it is the Achilles heel for Limpopo.
Yes, it has been. We are rectifying that because after the reading of the results, we are instructed by the Premier that we go back with the universities and sit. As I speak, we are preparing to sit now in March. These will be our 2 universities and the other partners that works with us. We are going to review the document and the strategies that we have now. If you go to the University of Limpopo, they will have certain programs that they will do with us as Department of Education. Maybe just some portion in training and all that, and the educators are in that space. Then you go to the University of Venda, they have got a partnership with the 2 districts there, where in areas of intervention, our educators have got time that they go to the university campus and then get that type of support. So this is very silos. This is very individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where now we need to come back to the communication issue and the planning, because we need to be able then to say, when we have got all these interventions, they need to be known by all educators. But they need to focus on what we want to achieve as a province. Not that we want to move away from what is available. We want to determine what is it that we want. Yeah, that is another critical area. Why we'll emphasize on the planning and us sitting in one room. We are reaching out to all our partners. We are reaching out to the universities, and like today when I was here, in Gauteng, it's about also the UJ program that DBE is doing, where we as Limpopo, we are also going to benefit in terms of the physical science. And as you know, we are the maths and science schools, so this becomes a very huge boost, because now the formal institution have got manuals that are also determined by the curriculum advisors that will go to schools to work with those manuals. So that is critical for us to have, and work with all the partners, yes.
And what is your relationship with other provinces, especially the provinces that are almost so similar like yours, your Free State, your KwaZulu-Natal, which comprise of mainly rural areas, and they are proving to be doing very well. Have you looked at how they do their planning, how, so that there is also that level of interaction on a provincial level?
We had a team that went to both Free State and Eastern Cape. The team, governance, was going to look at how the rural Eastern Cape also deals with the accessibility in terms of going to rural schools, in terms of our scholar transport. Because remember, basics, if they are not provided, it means that the learners are not arriving at school on time. So we had a team that went to Eastern Cape and we compared notes. But like you are saying, we ourselves, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, we are the biggest. The second team came here in Gauteng, where we were then looking at the whole issue of saying Gauteng is moving faster. At one time, all our educators in Limpopo were moving to Gauteng. And Gauteng is moving faster in terms of technology, introducing IT, ICT usage, smart boards, tablets, and everything with their learners. And we looked at that. We have improved significantly in terms of us rolling out our tablet programs with our learners at schools. Then we are also then saying now, how best do we introduce the whole smart board program? And that is the discussion that we have with the Gauteng and the discussions that the team went to Eastern Cape and Free State. But what the minister has been able to do for us as provinces is to say, okay, fine, you don't have time to be going to different provinces yourselves. So when we meet each time, 2 MECs will present their own stories in what they are good at. So they will share the notes at that level. So if we are having our meeting at one province, that province comes and share their good practices in terms of where they are strong in. So if you are here, it's on academic excellence. You go to KwaZulu-Natal, it will be also about embracing rural schools. You go to, I know that the last meeting we were sharing with the MEC in Eastern Cape about the ECD programs that they have. And if Eastern Cape can have a good program on early childhood development, being rural like that, it means as Limpopo, we can benefit. So we are sharing notes in that regard. And that is how also the minister comes in assisting us to share the best practices amongst ourselves as MECs and provinces.
And how it's a, you know, it's a fact our schooling system needs to keep up with the times. But how do you deal with the you know, the differences in how that is provided? On one side, you have issues with sanitation, pit latrines. On the other side, you have issues with access to just the basics, clean water, electricity, and the introduction of these smart technologies. How do you handle these 2 different worlds?
You know, Limpopo is unique in its own way. And how we have decided to work with the team was that let's look at a school in a holistic way. Let me look at a school and say, if I say I'm going into the school, when I leave, I need to leave a school behind. So I'm not going to divide that school into segments. I'm not going to say you are the school of a curriculum, you are a school of infrastructure, you are a school of admission, you are the school of a book. No. Our approach has been that let's look at a school. When I get into a school, when I leave, I should leave a school behind. And that is why with the class of 2022, we did right. You remember we went on a 5.2%, because we focus just to say, are you in class? Are you a learner? Just chill and learn. Then in 2023, we said infrastructure, because one of the things that we needed to do was to say, to enhance academic excellence, you need a learner that is sitting on a desk. You need a learner that is in a class. You need a learner that goes to a proper sanitation and they're not embarrassed when they come out and find somebody was seeing them through a crack. So we then decided to deal with the school as a school. It has helped us because at a management level, when we go to a meeting, each DDG will present what makes a school. So when the MEC stands up, I'm going with the whole package. No longer to say, now I'm focusing on school, now I'm focusing on this, because it was really creating so many silos. But what we tried to do to deal with the issue of sanitation in Limpopo, we then went on saying, where we have built, it's either in Virolu or waterborne, we then demolish the pit latrine. Because remember, what was killing us was not when we were not demolishing. One, we are in areas where people at their homes, they can still be using a pit latrine. So even if you have got a waterborne or in Virolu, the access, they're still comfortable with what they were used to. So when we demolish, it means we start to change the narrative of a learner in a school and both the educators. We are working jointly. When we go to schools in terms of sanitation, it is us, it is also the Department of Water and Sanitation. We did a lot of sanitation projects with them, where they were able to then say in a school we'll then have a borehole, and then we'll introduce Envirolu and also water bowl, where we know that they will have water. Because remember, the water bowl, you can create a chaos if ever the water is not going to be sustainable. So that is why we have those two types of sanitation. So we are doing well, because what I need to just make sure that we finalize is that when we say we cannot open all of them, I can't really match the pace of providing sanitation and going to cut every ribbon. So we are saying the contractor moves behind the implementing agent. When they finish, then the contractor has to demolish the other ones that are pit latrines. Because I think the narrative of a pit latrine in Limpopo has stayed with us for too long. We just need to change it. And when we assessed, when we were starting, we are indeed above 50% with the eradication of the pit latrines. So when we go to a school, we have identified that a child needs to be comfortable. A child needs we cannot provide it more than what they have at home, but they just need to be in a conducive environment to learn.
Okay, and 50% is that a statistic you are proud of in terms of eradicating pit latrines?
You'll remember that in terms of providing service to our own learners and to the people, you can never be satisfied. There's always room to improve. And where there's room to improve, my challenge now becomes to say, okay, in a school where I've given them Envirolu, can I then move now and give them a water bowl? You know, there's just all that room to improve. That's why, as Department of Education, we take serious interest in the IDPs of the municipalities. Because my interest with the IDPs is that I'm waiting to hear what my municipality, where is my municipality going to take the water pipe? Am I a beneficiary as a school? So that space becomes a space of interest. In fact, last year I was even saying to the team in the office, let's make sure every mayor gets to know the schools that we have in their own vicinity. So we then divide all the schools per each municipality, and then send it to say, Honorable Mayor, these are the schools in your area. Please know that you have got schools. And to the executive mayors, we give them what is within their district. Because that, I'm one of those that every time I see a person says, what is it that I'm benefiting from you? Because education is a space that if you don't go out and be visible, people can just forget about you, because no adult goes in there except the teachers. It's not like a clinic or something, you know. No adult goes there. Some parents can pass, as long as they don't have a child there, I don't think they will even see that that fence is falling if they are passing a school. So that is why we are very forceful and we want to be visible. So we are not excited about where I am in terms of that, but I'm happy that on the 50%, a narrative of a child and a learner and an educator, remember, they also have to have a proper staff room and proper ablution. And with an educator, it's even more painful. These are adults that have got their own homes that are comfortable. And I want to keep them in the institution for nearly 9 hours. That means I need to also provide for them. And that is why we're saying we are looking at a school in a holistic manner. We are not dividing it into silos.
Yeah. It's back to basics. I think that your slogan must be back to basics, because
I think I'll adopt it.
I think you are going back to the basics. I mean, even the relationship between the municipalities and the schools, those are really the basics that one would expect to be in place. The girl learner in Limpopo, if you look at the statistics of the Matric exams, there is a big difference in the number of learners who pass compared to other provinces, and also in relation to the overall national figure.
As a province, we have not really experienced it that way. We are part of those provinces that are contributing a higher number in terms of the girls at a national level. You'll remember that my best learners, even those that comes at a national, most of the time are girls. But there are two factors that, remember, as the Department of Education nationally and also us as a province, we had to address the issue of a gap of a learner that will not be able to attend the days, all the days. It's compulsory now that in quintile 1, 2, 3, we provide sanitary towels for the girls with the need. So we have reduced that gap because we are able to achieve that. Secondly, we are no longer at a very high level of teenage pregnancy. And even last year, I did not have any cases of learners that were affected when they had to sit for exams. So then that means that maybe our research now should focus on them progressing well, quicker, or are they part of those that would be failing more? Because remember, a girl child, we need to be very, very conscious on the type of support that we give them. But I can confirm, Tabi saying our top learner last year was a girl, and she was from a township school in Sishiho. And the maths and science students that I get from Bidu and Teng, mostly they're girls. And we just want to say it becomes a conscious decision that we always track a girl child, especially with us in DBE. We are saying we need to find a way on strengthening their attendance and strengthening their visibility in terms of passing. Because sometimes you don't see that they are there because they might be sitting at a diploma level, if it's with the grade 12s, and sitting at a national certificate level. They are not at a level of bachelors in a bigger number. So I think you are correct. We need to really consciously continue to focus, but we did well with the class of 2023. I've got a star. That was a girl.
Can you describe, since the migration from social development to basic education, what has been the progress in terms of integrating the early childhood development sector into basic education?
I know the ECD's practitioners that are listening to us, all that they want to hear is PESA. They don't want to negotiate other things. But I can confirm that since we started to work at an ECD space, we've been able to register them so that then we look at a compliance. The compliance that is supposed to be there is that the building that they are using has to be up to standard, and it's a building that the Department of Labor can confirm. The rooms, the inspectors have to go and give them a health certificate to say, because remember they cook and do all those things. The other issue that was interesting when I was visiting them is that they've been able to demarcate and separate the classes. Now at an ECD level, you no longer just have somebody, a 6-month-old sleeping and a 5-year-old sitting here. They have to be separated in terms of how the teachers or the educators or the childminder will deal with them. because we have got expectations on how they will deal with the under 1 year, which the social development will always go and monitor. And we have got a certain expectation with the 3 year to the 5, because they need to start to progress to prepare to go to primary. So there is a fixed curriculum that they will need to follow. So when those small feeds, P-feeds are going to graduations, there should be a pattern and a curriculum that they can achieve. I was part of the team, myself and the HOD in Limpopo were part of the team that the minister took to Cuba to go and learn how they deal with, how do they integrate ECDs into the primary schools, because our ECDs now is from birth to the 5-year-olds. So we went to that, but also we are then providing equipments and material now, formally so, to the ECDs, because if we speak a curriculum, it means that we need to give them the support. We are also expected that in terms of infrastructure, we should be able to also build ECDs, where we have got, like the one that we opened in Masisi, where we went, they had so many children, and because of space, they could not separate the grades.
Okay.
So remember, even at ECDs, there's arts and culture and sports. So the bigger ones would want to be more active and all that. And somebody who's crawling can just crawl to your toy and start to hit you with it. So we need to do that. So we are providing a material for the ECDs, and where we have, I think for this year, when we start with the new budget in April, we'll be talking around plus or minus around 38 ECDs that Limpopo has to upgrade. So that then we don't just say to them, we expect you to be on this standard.
And are we talking here about the ones that are fully or partially registered?
They need to be
compliant,
fully compliant.
Talk to me about just the
compliance.
landscape. How is the compliance looking like? Because it is a very broad space. Some you find it's 5 peoples in a house. But the practitioners need to be assisted. So talk to me about the broad range of issues that you're encountering in the province on an ECD level, and what sort of interventions are you providing at those?
One, the ECD is registered with as an NPO, so it should comply with the structure. 2, it should comply with the expectation of teachers. We'll have a set of rules that talks to say, if you have got how many children, how many childminders should you have. So they will have to comply with that. 3, they are also evaluated on the type of kitchen. So that means we'll no longer have an ECD that is happening in somebody's garage. Because remember, those that happens in somebody's garage, it means they're cooking outside. So the kitchen has to comply. So then also they need to have space to can separate the grades. So then the compliance, the environmental specialist will go there and check environmentally, is the place where they're supposed to cook habitable? Are the classrooms habitable? If not, then they will not allow them to be recognized as fully compliant. They will have to rectify that. 2, now they are even going further to check the level of understanding of the childminders. It's no longer just that space. I was saying to them, we had a program with them last year where I visited all of them and I was meeting them as the ECDs, as an MEC. And we're saying it is no longer that space where you can just wake up. You don't take care of yourself, but you want to go to an ECD and take care of children. It can't happen. So there's a specific standard that you are entering a school environment that we expect. Then the third one is that when they've separated the learners, the principal and the educators need to be able to understand the curriculum itself, because then they'll be able to identify the needs that I'm talking about, to say, with the curriculum advisors for that level, we are then going to give them the material. So the department will be expected to give support in terms of the material that needs to be used. We just met some of the partners and sponsors that were saying to me, MEC, what is it that we can do at an ECD level? And we are saying, even at that space, the little happy feet need to be introduced to technology, just to activate their minds. So then we are no longer expecting anyone to be running it from their homes. It needs to be in an environment where it's accessible by parents and also government officials, because if it is in your home, you can lock your gate, you can lock whatever. So that whole compliance of a governing structure that will be able to talk to the books being monitored, to the registration of learners being monitored. Because remember, there is certain amount of money that we give support to the schools. So just like in a normal school where we give them support in terms of money that we transfer to schools because it's a no-fee school, is the same way with the ECDs. So it means that they should have a full structure that will even be able to manage the books, and they can be able to report back. Remember, when they can't report, it means we can't keep on investing in them. So this is a setup that is there. And we are also then saying to the principals of primary schools, when we are doing the back to school, know your ECDs, so that then each ECD should be a feeder to a specific primary school. It cannot happen that this side we are saying every child should be at a school. This other side, preschools are full, but they don't know which school are they going to take those learners. And it should be thought well before a community comes and says, MEC, we want a school. We should be saying, in this area, we have got how many ECDs that can produce those learners for us. Because you remember, me and you can just wake up and call the department, we want a school in our corner. It can no longer happen like that. So we are trying to also integrate the ECDs and the primary schools to say who becomes your feeder. We know the primary schools that feed a specific secondary, but we have never done it with the ECDs. So now, because they are with us, we want to say which primaries are you going to take your children, so that then they are not just in space. And me and you will agree, we don't want to see those happy feet in those buckies, because somebody has opened an ECD very far from a primary school, and those kids now, they are stuffed in a bucky. So that is the process that we do with the ECDs.
That survey that was conducted, I think it was last year, it does show that a lot of them are not registered. A lot of them, the teachers also need to be trained, but there is also a responsibility. And mother language learning, especially in that ECD space, how is that coming along? Because it's identified as one of the most important things that children should learn in their mother tongue.
Yeah, remember when we emphasize curriculum, they will have to identify which language is dominant. The arts and culture will also come with the language. In an area where you live in town, in a town, the children will go into an ECD, they will say, this is a purely Afrikaans one, or this is purely English. And in other areas where the dominance is about Sotho, you'll find that the learners are at that level. Even the traditional dances, they will do the Sotho traditional dances when they deal with arts and culture, or they will do Venda, or they will do the Tsonga. You should just see them. You should just see those happy feet when they start to dance, and when they are wearing the traditional clothes, they look like old people, but they just embrace it and take it out in a more better way that me and you can do.
Yeah.
So the language will also be dominant around the language that is spoken in that area. With us as a Department of Education, for both ECD, primary and secondary, you know, the minister was saying something very profound, to say the learners that were taught in the Eastern Cape in Xhosa language, they performed better, and they were even doing better in English. So that is the ECD space. They have to have a culture that they are growing up with, and something that they can associate with when they go home. Because if they can't associate with the language when they go back home, they will have a problem. So it will differ with the areas, but we are saying teach them in a language that they will speak at home, and also teach them in class, so that then they can have one language. Then they can read for meaning. Because our struggle was that township schools, many schools were just teaching learners from an early age at grade R to speak in English.
Yeah.
Now they don't have any language that they know. Now we are back to basics to say, let's teach them to read for meaning. We are correcting that with our ECDs. We should share with you just a video when they are dancing from the ECD level.
I would love to see
to
that.
really see that, yeah.
And in terms of the teacher vacancies, how are you looking? There is issues of, there isn't enough schools. I think this is it's a problem in a number of provinces. There are also overcrowding in schools. What schools are going to be ready this year? New schools, repurposed schools, upgraded schools. Can you talk to me about your plans to ensure that children are learning in a conducive environment?
In the province, we have got 3 categories that we really need to move on when it comes to teacher availability. One, we are beneficiaries of the Funza Shaka, but beyond that, we need to just get educators into our schools. Our post basket last year for educators was around 5,000 something that we had to advertise, and that was inclusive of your HODs, your principals, and just a teacher. And if you speak Limpopo with 3,700 schools and you speak a post basket of 5, you have not even started. That will be a post basket for new teachers, but you have not started to speak about replacing the ones that are going on pension. I'm just consoled by the fact that with us now we have achieved a bit of 20% with the younger generation, with teachers in our schools that are younger than 35. We are at least at 20%. Remember, a teacher can stay in a school for 30 years. So that means that they can enter the system being 21, they will only exit being 60 or 65. So when you look at the effectiveness of by the time they exit with what we want currently, with the current teachers, it can be very difficult because of the introduction of technology and all that. So we prioritize. We say, if we are advertising posts, which subjects are way behind in terms of teachers? So your post basket will have to start there. So the team in the province will sit and look at it that way. But also what we were able to do last year was to make sure that the SMTs, which is your HODs, your head of departments in the schools, and your deputy principals and your principals, those gaps, we closed them. We focused on that last year. We have done well with that category. But then we need to come back and say, in a school where they are having maths and science, or in a school where they specialize in accounting, in a school where they are specializing in agriculture, do we have the specialized teachers to teach that? So that comes out of the same post basket that you are able to deal with. So that will be your first category. These are your teachers generally.
Yeah.
The second category, we have got to deal with the inclusive schools, which are your special schools. In this category, we had to look at the specialized needs of a learner. So you need psychologists, you need mothers and fathers that will stay with the learners at the boarding schools. You'll need educators that are skilled in terms of assessment. You'll need the social workers in those schools because the needs of the children are categorized in different ways. So last year, what we did was that as much as we did not close all the posts, we're still lacking behind. So what we did was to look at the special schools and say, where are we lacking? We found that we don't have psychologists, we don't have social workers, and the educators, remember, it can be an educator, but they need to be taken to training on how to deal with the special need of a child in a class, because if you have got a class of 12 children, their needs are different in terms of how they will respond. So we have done that assessment, we have moved a bit. Then you have got a very difficult third category in our schools, your clerks, your support team. So that then a teacher and a principal can remain in class. They can't be typing.
Yeah.
They can't be going to get those boys and girls to do the garden. There's a lot of things that needs to be done. We had a program of the education assistants. You'll remember the presidential program.
Yes.
That assisted us a lot. We had a lot of them, the cohort. I'm sure now they will be advertising again. That is a team that also assisted us a lot.
Yeah.
They don't just deal with typing and all that, but some of them are specialized in terms of assisting learners to read. So that is a gap where a teacher who's just running with the curriculum and the syllabus in class does not have time to really call the learner and say, sit down, read, let me understand, see if you are understanding. So the teacher assistants will then be able to close those gaps. So these are the categories that we are supposed to deal with in the province, and we are able to meet them at a very, very low level. It is work in progress. I can't say all my schools I'm satisfied. I'm just happy that I'm no longer losing teachers. That one at least I can confirm. I'm actually receiving a lot of calls of teachers that were outside the province that says, MEC, how do we best come back and work in the province? And these are my first question when a person calls, what do you specialize in? I start to look for a subject that a teacher is specializing in, so that then when we receive beyond the line of those that have applied, what we are receiving should be something that will make a difference.
So you're also facing a challenge of math, science, STEM subject teachers.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the plan in filling those vacancies? Because it does sound like a big number, and it's going to affect education in the province with such a high vacancy rate. 2 weeks back, we had a planning meeting with the team that was presenting, I think a week ago. With the team that was presenting, and my interest was to say how much can we be able to take in this year. We have agreed on saying, can we prioritize the special schools? Okay. Because for a long time they were neglected. Can we prioritize training and reskilling of those that are in the because those that are in the system, if we can reskill, then that means you are overrolling the system. It comes back with extra
information and knowledge for the educator to be able to execute. It won't close up the gap, but the level of understanding would have been improved. So the team in training in human resource will also look at that. But also we are saying we need to then tighten those that are going into Funza Lushaka bursary. We need to start to close the loopholes to say, if you are doing this, you are not part of our bursary. This is the type of an educator that we want. So if we do that, we started to do that last year. So we are expecting that in the next 3 years, we'll have a cohort of educators aligned with what is a need for the province. We'll not just generally take, because you know that we do report or at national level to say how are we dealing with the bursary people. So that is the other space that we as MECs comes in to say, I can't just take what I can't use. And I think Limpopo, KZN and Eastern Cape, we had a similar situation. So that is how we are trying to organize arrange the gaps. One of the things that we also have is our agricultural schools. And I'm excited because the Department of Agriculture is closing in with us and coming in to say, okay, if you have got less educators, how do the team of the people that works in agriculture comes and then do the practicals with the learners? So I no longer have to have an educator in class and an educator that goes with them to the gardens and the outside. The Department of Agriculture comes closer, then we close up that gap. Those are partnerships that we are looking to say, as we look for the educators, can you come closer? And I'm happy because they've adopted our schools, they're working closer. And sometimes I'm like, why are you from my school without telling me? But when I know that the partnership is going to work better for us. So this is how we'll close it up, as much as we present to employ every time when we have got a budget to be able to do that.
Gauteng is making a big noise around the schools of specialization. Why are you not doing the same with your focus schools? And tell me, which areas are those focus schools focused on? You mentioned agriculture, what else? And mining?
Yes, our province is just about agriculture, mining, and also just to produce learners on the science and maths and science stream. Remember, environmental issues are an issue in the province because of the way we are, the agriculture setup. So we need a lot of them, and they have to be from the maths and science. So the planning will be different in terms of where the other provinces are, but I'm sure with us, we have started very well with the technology. The Gauteng started technology even before COVID. We only started to rise during COVID. So we have had a session when I was already MEC, where we are now zooming in on the 120 schools that are specialized. We are, in terms of infrastructure, we are improving the schools in an area of mining, so that then they can have the correct classes to be able then, and laboratories. Because one of the things that Gauteng has that we don't have, which we are working on our relationship with partners, is sponsors that will come and give you a mining laboratory that my learners can go into. So those are the MOUs that we are working. I'm partnering with my colleague who works with the mining industry. They're saying, why don't you give us the schools and then we can invest? So that then they no longer just build a normal school, they give me what I want. And that is where I was saying, when we are talking to the partners now, we are saying, we have seen you. You can bring in a calculator, you can bring in a pen, but now we are not needing it. We need something different. And I think that is the conversation that as an MEC I'm doing with our partners. We've got a trust, an education trust, that we have also started to sit down with them, and we are having that conversation. And Call me after 2-3 months. You'll see the difference that we're going to make, because the excitement of just being moving, that psychological movement from 9 to 7 has done wonders on our planning and our energy.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. And I wish you all the best. I will be in touch in the next 3 months to check on the progress on some of the things that we have discussed today. Thank you, MEC.
Yes, thanks. I'll be happy.
Thank you.